Well, hello once again. We are on the other side of the car. You'll remember in the last video, those of you who watched it, you saw how we replaced the axle seal. Well, when I got to the other side of the car, it wasn't quite so easy. It wasn't, a cut and dry operation, because when I removed the seal, it was dark down in there, a lot of oil and grease, but when I cleaned it, this is what we found. Look at here, a couple of really deep digs in the bearing race, where the seal goes. At first I thought this entire strip was missing, but it wasn't. What's happened here is somebody has changed these seals previously, and they probably took a chisel or something and chiseled in through the soft metal on the seal and tore up this race along with it. They did it on both sides and probably then just pried it up or whatever it was stupid. Anyway, at first I thought this entire strip was missing. I contacted Brendan. I said, man, what do you think of that, big boy? But so I went ahead and I cleaned it up and roughed it up. The idea, I was going to go ahead and fill this with JB Weld and then smooth it down enough to where the seal could go in and make contact, because there's no stress or strain on it. It should have worked, no problem. At first I was going to try some sealer, but then I got thinking, nah, we're not going to do that. Anyway, I took the moto tool with a grinding stone and roughed it up, and then I discovered, I said, ooh, that's not missing. That's still there. And this is what's missing, these two deep gouges. So, we're still in very good shape. It'll just take a lot less JB Weld, that's all. But right now I'm going to go ahead and take this wire brush and clean it up. There were a lot of burrs sticking out everywhere here. So we'll go ahead and wire brush this baby up. Clean it up, smooth it up, make it nice and smooth in this area. And then I'll go ahead and fill that in with JB Weld. And we'll go ahead and sand it down smooth and get that seal in there. I took a little burring tool and burred into the, down inside each one of those slots right there. Just got it, roughed it up enough where it'll take the JB Weld. And I've got the JB Weld down here with a little application stick. Let's hope it works. If it doesn't, we'll just move on to plan B. Never a problem, okay? We will go ahead and we don't need a ton of stuff on there, just enough to get it in there and then smooth it over. Remember, I told you quite a while ago that JB Weld sands very easily. So I think what we'll do is we'll put this in there first and show you what I'm talking about. Get that down in there. Well, there we go. Tomorrow we'll go ahead and sand that down nice and smooth. Go ahead and drive in the seal and take all those tools and everything back to O'Reilly. The JB Weld is dried overnight. I took some coarse sandpaper, medium, and then dressed it up with a wet dry black silicon carbide paper. Smoothed it up real good. I'll tell you what, boy, that's as smooth as a baby's butt in there now. No more low spots. I got it as smooth as I could. Yeah, but just to be on the safe side, we're going to take a little bit of former gasket sealant. We're going to put down around this area right here, because this was leaking. When I took this seal out, it was full of oil and grease and crap in here. I thought that was odd, and now I know why, of course, was those two low spots. Allowing the oil to get by, so we'll go ahead and put a little bit in there just to be on the safe side. Let it sit until it gets a little bit tacky. And you got to do that with former gasket. You don't just put it on there and slap it together. Yeah, whatever you use former gasket on. Now this is the non-hardening pliable, which is what I want. And I've never used the kind that hardens up. And let it get tacky a little bit. Then we'll go ahead and drive our seal in. And then I got to head off to the dentist. I got a cleaning appointment. Every day it's something. That's about all we're going to need in there, a very thin layer, because once you jam that or drive that seal in, it's going to bunch it all up anyway against this lip. I just took a little screwdriver with some of that Permatex on it and just kind of dabbed it around back and forth. Went a little bit above each of the original low spots, which were here and here. I think that should take care of our problem. At least I hope so. All right, she's in. On to the next job. Well, it's been raining like this now since last night. Solid, almost non-stop. Down in Arkansas, this is what we call a toad strangler. Holy mackerel. I don't know how much. Of course, the ground was very, very dry, but it's very, very saturated now. I want to work on the Thunderbird today. It better light up. If it does, I'll be okay. If not, I guess I'll just have to work on the radio. And our two additions to the house, everywhere I go, they're right on my heels. No matter where I go, there they are. Aren't you, huh? I'll go over here and sit down and you watch what happens. They'll both probably show up. Well, there's old buddy. He's here already. And here he comes. Here she comes. There's old Dee Dee. Wherever I go, they got to be right there. Man, oh man, it's just not going to let up. It's just going to supposedly do this all day long. Wonderful. But we did need the rain, that's for sure. The rain has stopped. Oh my God, look at that grass. It rained for 3 days. That grass, I'm going to have to get to that tonight. But it gives us an opportunity to get back to the Thunderbird, so let's do it. Today we're going to put the axle back. We're going to put the back plate on, and we're going to go ahead and put the axle back in, and then we're going to go ahead and put the brakes on and the drum on and all that jazz on one side of the car. It'll be exactly the same for the other, so there's no sense in doing it twice. In this video or any other video, once you see how it's done on one side, same as the other. Right now I'm getting ready to paint this part of the axle housing. Unfortunately, we have a very, very sharp edge right there and a couple of other little sharp items that were the result of when they welded that thing together. And I'll tell you what, that thing's like a little razor blade. I got to get rid of that, so I'm going to use the old grinding stone with the moto tool. And we'll stuff a little something up in there just to make sure, we don't want any, grinding bits up in there. So let's see if we can get this done just a little bit. It doesn't have to all come off, but it has to be done enough to where it won't cut my arm. I'll tell you what, boy, that thing is like a razor blade. I'll tell you what, you can't beat these little old rotary tools or Dremel, whatever it is you got. Yeah, it's still pretty sharp. But let me work on that for a while. That's all done. Now what we have next is we have two different sets of gaskets here. Why do we need two different sets? They look identical to you, and they certainly look identical to me, but there is a difference, believe it or not. The one that fits here, around this thing here, is a different size from the one that fits on the axle itself. The reason being is the one on the axle itself has to be large enough. The hole in the center has to be large enough to fit over the wheel bearing. A lot of people don't even go with the gaskets. They just say, the heck with it, throw it on. And I've done that before myself, never noticed any difference. But, what the heck. They weren't that expensive, and I decided, let's do it this time. We're in no hurry, no giant hurry. I mean, the winter is coming. It'll be here pretty soon before we know it, but I do have another couple of months, and I wanted to, let's do it the right way, show everybody the right way, okay? And whether or not you do it is entirely up to you. But I'm going to go ahead and spray paint this with primer, and then we'll take a further look at the gaskets. I just went over this thing 2 more times with brake cleaner, sprayed it on, took a rag and wiped and cleaned, used a wire brush around the back edges, got it, as clean as I can get it. Now, is it going to be totally clean? Of course not. No matter how much you clean these things, there's always going to be residual grease, residual dirt, grime somewhere that you either can't get to or overlooked, or it just won't come out. You know, that's all there is to it. So you just do the best you can. All right, now we're going to go ahead and do a little spray again. We're going to go ahead and put this in there. Now I've gone ahead and sanded the rust and stuff that's on this outside flange here, sanded all that off because a little bit had redeveloped since the last time I cleaned it. And we're just going to go ahead and take regular old Rust-Oleum primer and go ahead and give it a shot. Just do the best we can. Don't worry about painting the flange area. It won't matter. There's a gasket going to go on there. Like I said, we'll take a look at that in a few seconds. But it'll look a whole lot better than it did. And the only way to really get this entire thing the way you want it, is spotless clean, is to completely remove the axle from the car, take the differential out and soak it in caustic soda, sandblast it, bead blast it, whatever, and then start from scratch and repaint. Okay, it's the only way. It's the only way you can do it. But for now, this is going to work. We will eventually be changing these leaf springs, and we'll clean it a lot more because I'm going to be lifting up the entire axle with a jack to clear the leaf springs. And when I do, I'll be able to take all this out. We'll let it soak for a few days in the rust remover. You know, just a lot more work, that's all. But it's not essential to getting the car started again and getting it out of the garage. It will come in due time. So let's keep going here. Well, guess what? It wasn't supposed to rain today. And there it is, raining again. Oh, man. Old 64 goat up there, he's been complaining about rain. I know exactly what he's talking about. Well, let's try it again. I'm not having very good luck here today. Gotta have this light to work on that part of the car here. I've got everything laid out. Normally I'd lay it on the floor, you know, but I want everybody to see what we're doing here. Got our backing plate, we've got our axle, everything this around the outside edge of this bearing. I want it nice and clean. I don't want any paint or anything. I don't want to take any chances of that thing slipping, binding up, or anything. I don't know what could happen. Just keep it nice and clean. You don't want any paint, any oil, any grease, or anything like that. Cleaned it off real good with a wire brush, and then some lacquer thinner. Our drum's good to go, nice and clean. Boy, it's really nice now. And then here's all our brake parts. We also have gaskets that we're going to be using that go on the, now these are all called axle housing gaskets or something like that. Let me see, there's axle flange gaskets, that's what they're called. And they're supposed to be, believe it or not, 2 different sizes. That's why we have 2 in the small packages and 2 in the big packages. The problem is, one was supposed to be to where it would fit over here real easy, whereas the other one would not. Well, it turns out, I don't know why I even bothered ordering 2 different size, 2 different orders on these. They're both exactly the same. Both exactly the same size. There's not a bit of difference between either one of them. So I can use either one. Now, I will say that this one here is made of a tougher, it appears to be a tougher, stronger material than the other one. I don't know if you can see that. We really have an overcast day today, but I don't know, it looks to be just a little tougher than this one here. I don't know, this is more of a paper, this is more of a fiber. So I think what we'll do is we'll use this one, the fiber one, on this right here. Okay? And then we'll go ahead and use the paper one on the back of the this plate right here, on the backing plate. Also, when I took off the old auto adjustment cable off the wheel, you'll see that it was really boogered up really bad, torn up. Well, when you have something like that, look how thin that is right here. You don't want that thing coming loose, breaking loose, and getting wrapped up around your brakes while you're going down the road. So I bought another one, this one here. I got it from, I think it was Rock Auto. Can't remember where. Half these parts, I can't remember where I get them. Mostly Rock Auto. But in order to do it, I had to buy the entire kit. So I had to buy, you know, this comes in it, this comes in it, this brand new adjuster comes in it, which is cool, you know, and then we have a rubber plug for that. And this, and the whole thing cost me $7, so I didn't want to do all that. You know, you can buy each of these individually, but when it comes to buying this cable, you got to buy the whole kit in a plastic bag. So what the heck. I'm going to throw this one away. I'm not even going to keep it around. Years ago, I used to keep parts around. You know, I keep this, keep that. I guess I'll say I wound up with a whole pile of junk I never did need. And then one day I got rid of it, so now I just chunk it. The internet is to the point now where you don't have to keep all those old nasty old parts just in case you need it in the future. Just get rid of it, get a new one, all right? Chunk it out, junk. All right, now one thing I want to bring up, notice the shape of the bolt head on these bolts. There's a reason for that. When the bolt comes through from the back side of the flange on the axle, it will come through, and it comes through these holes here in your plate. Let me show you here. It'll come up through the hole in here like that. And then this thing here, when you start putting the nut on through the hole on the axle here, you start putting that nut on through there with your ratchet, the head of the bolt hits the axle housing and keeps it from turning. It's kind of it just bangs against it. It won't, if it had been round, it would just go round and round and round and round. But that thing comes around and hits and stops it and enables you to go ahead and put your nut on, which is this big old nut right here. Okay. All right. I don't think there's anything more I can explain about that. All this stuff here is the junk. Now I did get brand new. This is our brake cylinder, of course, and I did buy brand new star washers, external star washers for it. I got them on for both of these, but the rest of this junk is going to be in the trash. And I didn't paint any of this stuff. No need to do any of that. It's nice and clean. That's all we worry about. We're good to go. There's a little bit of rust here and there, but not enough to have a heart attack over. We don't sweat it. So what do you say we just get this whole thing back together? We're going to go ahead and start by putting the gaskets on. I'm going to take a little dab of Permatex to form a gasket. I'll probably put a little dab of the gasket here, 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 and here, just enough to hold this thing in there where it won't spin. And I'll do the same thing on the flange of the axle housing. Just before I put this in, it'll keep it in place till I get the backing plate on. So that'll be about it. So let's go ahead and get our backing plate on. Let's get our axle in, and then we can start doing the brakes. Now, the brakes are in a box, by the way, back there. The question is, am I going to be able to remember? I took the brakes off of both sides of the car. Now, am I going to be able to remember how they go back together? Well, I think so. But just in case, there's always a plan B. Plan B, of course, is our 66 Ford Thunderbird shop manual. And if we go over here to page 2-9, there's a photograph of the entire thing. Now, this is the passenger side. So for the driver's side, you just kind of reverse the picture, okay? But that's how everything goes back together. In case I get lost, let's do it. The axle is in, the back plate is on, and the wheel cylinder is bolted up. Everything's good to go. I just cleaned it real good with a rag. After you're done, you want to make sure you get all your fingerprints off. You can, it only takes, less than a minute to do that. Go ahead and clean it up, shine it up, make it look halfway decent, okay? And now, it's brake time. Well, that's it, guys. The first set of brakes is on. The last thing I have to do is take a little bit of sandpaper and sand the shoes down very lightly, front and back, all the way to the bottom, back and forth, all the way to the rear on the shoe. In case I got any grease or gook or crap, you're supposed to wash your hands, which I did before you start doing brakes. But even though these have been washed 100 times and cleaned and sprayed and painted and everything, I didn't paint any of the brake shoes or any of that crap. But you still get dirt and grease and crap on your brake shoes. So what you got to do is, I'll show you how this is done. You can use that old medium sandpaper, but you're not. The object here is not to grind down the shoe. The object here is to sand off any fingerprint, oil, or anything you might have got on. Don't make a whole lot of dust out of this. Just a little bit. Just rough up the surface, get it back to where it's no shiny spots. Something that might have been left over from before, okay? That's what we're talking about. Down there, it looks like you could use another little shot right in there. Let's see what that looks like. Yeah, that's a little bit better. That's about it. You don't need to go crazy on this stuff. And don't be breathing it. Just take it easy. It's not going to kill you. You're not going to wake up dead tomorrow. Don't worry about it. And we'll do the same thing. Now if you did this every day for a living, that'd be different. Some folks out there think if you breathe one time, you're going to be dead the next morning. Well, it's not the way it is on anything. We just go ahead and kind of clean them up. And then that'll be it. Alright, now I'll tell you what, I'll go ahead and get the drum on, let you see that. Alright, that's how she looks. Looks real nice, I think. Anyway, right now they're not adjusted right, but I do have enough drag. I got enough drag on one shoe, it looks like. Anyway, we'll go ahead and adjust those later. As far as adjusting brakes goes, you can take care of that yourself. Just go to any YouTube video, just type in how to adjust rear drum brakes on any car, and they're pretty much all the same. You got a little star down there. You take a tool and you reach through a hole and you adjust it while you're spinning the hub. Get that one on your own, not a problem. Alright, next time we meet, I should have the other axle in or on the other side, and the brakes on, just like you see right here. Hopefully we'll be able to crank up and just start right out next time with putting the brake lines on here that I bought, steel brake lines, and checking the block down here where they connect together and make sure it's cleaned out. I'll probably take it off the axle housing, clean it out, blow it out and everything, and then we'll try blowing out the brake line all the way from the front of the car all the way to the rear to see what happens there. So, you know, I don't intend to take the entire brake line off the car, so forget that. Unless you're willing to come down here and do it for me, it's not going to happen. Unless I have to. Now, if I have to, I will. You know, if it's plugged up or shot to pieces or worn out, I'm going to check it as much as I can. Can't get under the car too much down on that end. It's a little bit too low because I got this thing so far up. But I'd like to be able to get the brake lines on next time. Check out the brake lines, make sure they're clear. Get the brake lines on to the wheel cylinders, and I don't know, maybe I can get down to the paint store and get some of that Wimbledon white, which is really the color of this car. It's not white, it's Wimbledon white, and there is a Canadian and an American Wimbledon white, keep that in mind. So I'll go ahead and get the American Wimbledon white, and I'd like to kind of clean around down in here. I've bleached it out and cleaned it out quite a bit. I want to get a spray can. I'll get a spray can of it, as well as a quart plus some of it in a spray can. And I'll be able to spray down the side there and clean it up. And once that's done, then we can go ahead and put our filler tube back in also. But, you know, you got to play by ear, video to video. So that's it. Until next time, guys. I hope I entertained you at least a little bit. I've been reaching up here with my hands trying to get up off the floor. I need to get that clean right now. All right, until next time, this is John.